Once again, I seem to have made some statements that need clarification, I believe. Okay, so I went ahead and just said, when it comes to the Sphinx, what it really represents is the human species. So I'm going to back up that statement. I'm going to back it up pretty hard. So yeah, get ready for that. Yeah, dealing with this pop culture icon, basically. I should make some pretty solid points in this one, hopefully. Well, maybe in the next 30 seconds I'll make a few anyway. So, in representation of human species, I stated that it represents the dual nature of a human being. So here we see a hybrid creature. I mentioned the name Chimera. I don't think I mentioned the Griffin in relationship to another kind of Sphinx. So I might look at that. What's another point I made? Basically how it used to be a lion or an animal head. I stated that originally it was that, and it has like a certain species, the kind of prolific species on the earth, which is like an animal, needs something that represents. So we're looking at a natural system in nature. Also, with it being a lion facing Leo, at how many thousands of years ago originally. Yeah, being the king of the jungle, we're looking at the head, kind of, guardian. So it's like a guardian species it's being represented as, but also, yeah, I don't know. It's like a replica of Osiris in a way. It's like another mirror. It's just in the sense of a guardian. So we should make a note of this factor in this system of the guardian, like as in even Osiris was like Lord and Guardian of the underworld, Guardian of the dead. Oh, jeez, my screen looks dirty. Anyway, can't be helped now. So, okay, another point I made was the change of the head from a lion to a human head relates to our species. Now I know I'm aware of hybrid experiments, hybrid species. I'm going to go into that too. And so we're looking at a genetic knowledge. So it was there, I'd say, in the beginning, like the first pyramid that was probably there. It's probably been rebuilt, not just the head, over the ages. And I show with the emergence of this genetic knowledge, even more so at the end of dynastic period, when certain genetic anomalies were popping out, as we see in Akhenaten's line, and I believe they began even with Tutmosis. That was one of the latest people to dig out the Sphinx as well. It was buried, it wasn't always above, yeah. This pharaoh got told to dig it out. So yeah, that was like a sign, an omen of this genetic knowledge. So it does represent something more genetic than you would ever imagine. Just want to show some of like how these things are based on. Can't really see it. It's like a hat of one of the Egyptian gods, showing what they're basing on, like the biology relating to consciousness. There's some more of this symbolism that's found in the human brain. Axial cross. Okay. From Willendorf, we have one of the original Venuses, and we can see here it actually correlates the thin arms. It's not, I mean, that's too abstract, it's weird. So yeah, that's the brain stem. What else can we show? Like even in like Sumeria, you see their hats. I've got these things coming off them, like little tiny antenna, like they're picking up some frequency called consciousness. Something like that. Like, I got rid of it now. Oh yeah, but anyway, in the brains you see these little things. Even the Egyptians have it on their hats. Don't know if you can see it. Like these little things. It's like a brain thing. So what's going on here is they're showing consciousness, how I showed like an animal head, an animal being like, you know, highly programmed for a specific job in a system of nature. So yeah, genetic experiments. I think this is one of the oldest. I think it's about 32,000 years old, they reckon. So we see the lion head originally was popular, and lion people. That one's Greek, that one's Egyptian, and that one's from a cave in Hollenstein mountain in Germany. Half lion, half man. So if they did create these things, because we know they're not natural, there are certain things, you know, that are, and I believe in a spiritual sense, like, you know, when these things die, there's no natural form in the earth for their consciousness to inhabit, so they're made to roam, and that's how demons are created. So could be looking at something like that in this day and age. And you can see how Christianity forms out of these things. Eventually these things get looked at demonically, but so yeah, basically that's what I wanted to say in with respect to relating the Sphinx highly to us. And there are certain questions that can arise that are pretty easily answered. I mean, you look at Akhenaten, he's put himself in Sphinx form, like so, you know, Pharaoh relates himself, you know, I mean, it's quite easily done, you know, you can relate that in a human sense. And I guess what that's suggesting is, you know, as Pharaoh, he is like there's a guardianship, there's a responsibility there. He does have that sort of programming or whatever too. It's just in a higher form. Yeah, and like in the last episode, I made a point of, you see Isis and Osiris as human form, but the offspring It's more of a hybrid, how I related Horus to more like us, being a dual nature, and closely related to the Sphinx as well. Like it did have a hawk head, the Griffin, in a lot of... where's a Griffin? Maybe I should examine the Griffin a bit more. Anyway, there's some Griffins, and this is interesting too. This is another genetic thing when it comes to base pairs and diploids and haploids. Human beings have like 2 base pairs and another 2 copied. Yeah, it's interesting. I'll read a bit. This is a bit of a joke going to Wikipedia, but it gives a good basic. It's good for kindergarten stuff. The Griffin, early Latin meaning curved, in the sense of a beak or a hooked nose. So, yeah, it's interesting. Those other Griffins were lion-headed that we just seen, like in this. But I guess like you do have a hooked nose. Here's the head of a Griffin. So mainly with the hawked or hooked nose. So we're looking at a genetic hybrid, just like Horus. And I showed like the limitations of like the programmed, like say Anubis. I compared the animal head with the human body, the limitation in consciousness. I compared that with the Sphinx and us, like the limitations in the body, being those things in our viral code. I mean, the virus in our genetic code. Now, it's interesting, this foot up thing. Like we have, what else do we have? Like, no, I don't have that picture at the moment. But you've got the foot up here, and in other videos I've shown the human in question down in a hole or a ditch. We see a hole here being a joining factor, but seems to be lower. But yeah, and see, these things got their leg up on this base pair here, which is like a leg. It's like a third leg kind of thing, but that's only because I guess they're not standing on this one. It's not really physical, it's there, but I guess this is the real one. So that's hinting to a foreign installation within the hybrid creature, which can relate to Horus and the human being and the guardian. As we see here, she's got her hands crossed over. How I said this resembles genetic code as well, broken code, this specific one, but how she's like that symbolism of Osiris should not be with her, and how it's in the lower classes, even the elite, showing like a separation between these sort of super elite pharaohs and even who they kind of rule with. So there's it's showing a broken code with the elite, the closest to the pharaohs. So yeah, the leg up, and then this guy, the bad dude, who's like, how I showed it's a divided scene, and the human being is pretty much the one in question in the middle of this division, which is interesting, and like the leg up situation he's got happening, but there's something, possibly animal code. See, the horn is like stabbing his heel, and over this side you got the Griffin as well. So they got their Griffin with the hooked, curved beak, and then over here you got the animal side. So they haven't got control of the beast in them, but these guys do. So yeah, originally the animal and nature system can be seen as a guardian, and for someone like that who's so separate from it, wouldn't see it as a problem. But yeah, then humans, I guess, become the most prolific lord of the jungle, so it's ideal to have a human head on the Sphinx. So hopefully, after saying all that, you can see where I'm coming from when I relate the Sphinx to us. I mean, we're in here too. Yeah, and how it relates to us, and how certain things relate to the Sphinx, and we're one of them. And yeah, it's specific how we relate to it. So yeah, like, it goes, you know, it shows, they're trying to show genetics. So I'm showing you a genetic code, and they all is related, you know, genes equal biology equals consciousness. I mean, your awareness, and, you know, how consciousness manifests. Here's some more kind of weird things from Egypt. It looks like a giant rat, I don't know, but you see like the two down the bottom. I was just showing you how it's like, this is like pretty much genetics as well. I'm gonna get probably more into fertility and, you know, role of consciousness combined with biology. It's pretty important. So yeah, you can see there's some weird stuff going on. Actually, I wanted to look at this one more. So yeah, we can see their offspring as two separate, like how I said, separating things. The ones down the bottom have one singular offspring, but it's still some weird hybrid. But here they've separated the hybrid. You got the bird has been separated from the animal. So it's like non-Griffin mode, but here down the bottom, the one that's upside down, I'm too lazy to spin around and show you properly. Yeah, it's still a hybrid. So, and that relates to at the end of the line how I said there was two Tutankhamun and two Tankhaten. How it was split, like say Horus is the original, and eventually at the end of the line. So, and then you have one that's pretty much got the broken code, which we see in the tomb. If you really examine the corpse, you'll see what I'm talking about, compared to the external, what it looks like, telling us that, you know, we might look like them, and but internally in our genetic code we're nothing like these some, you know, other species. So like, it's showing different species, different systems in the tomb, it's showing where they unite and where they divide and separate. Yeah, when I kept talking about the end of lines, and like in this, like there's a hidden scene in here where it shows like a Last Supper, pretty much with overturned cups, and each one has an overturned cup, and like the shock looked on all their faces. Yeah, it's interesting. I guess the shock and horror is not, in this sense, is not, in how it was in the later stories where Judas was like, oh, it was like the message of betrayal, someone's going to betray. But here it's like the shock and horror is like, holy shit, our, genetic code, our whole line is ending. And I'll probably go on more, I'll do more on hive kind of stuff and get into the astrogenetics and trying to link mind and body to reality as well, see where those separations are in our dual nature. So hopefully I explain myself a bit better from the last vid. Since there are other people watching, I mean, it's alright for me, but explaining things is a different story. So catch ya.